This time, I'll share a story about getting revenge on my cheating ex-wife and the man she was having an affair with, who even rented a secret meetup room. Take your time and enjoy it. I'm reporting this because a lot happened. I never imagined someone would rent a secret room just to have an affair. And despite the affair being entirely her fault, she seemed to misunderstand she would definitely get alimony if we divorced. Our details: ages at the time. Me, 34, an office worker who had just been laid off and started a new job. Ex-wife, 29, a housewife with a child. Affair partner, 30, self-employed. His wife, 30, a housewife with a child. Some background. Right before I got laid off, my ex-wife started working part-time at a nearby store. The affair partner was the owner of that store. The location was good, so it was doing fairly well. My ex-wife had always been a social person, so she was the mood setter in the restaurant. After I was laid off, I was job hunting and also working irregularly as a night security guard. Around this time, my ex-wife suddenly started coming home late. She made various excuses like, "One of the part-time workers called out," or, "We're doing inventory." At the time, I believed her. More than anything, I felt guilty that my ex-wife was supporting our household finances after I lost my job. Plus, she seemed happy being looked up to like a big sister by the high school and college part-time workers. Even though our house rule was to be home before the date changed, she didn't come home until 2 or 3 a.m. But I kept allowing her to go out drinking and everything. I found out about the cheating because, to be blunt, my ex-wife was an idiot. Or maybe it's because I was being totally looked down. She got out of the affair partner's car and kissed him in the driver's seat after he drove her home at the corner of our apartment. I was just coming back from the convenience store and witnessing that. Even from a distance, the guy looked like a total delinquent type. The moment I saw it, my knees were shaking. I started sweating weirdly under my arms and on my back. Now it all makes sense. We hadn't had sex for a while now. She had been rejecting me. And even though smartphones weren't common yet, she suddenly wanted to get a new cell phone for some reason. She kept envying the young part-time workers at her job going out together on their days off and lamenting that she couldn't join them. More than anything, her attitude toward me and our child had seemed constantly annoyed. It was all because she was having an affair. For about a week after witnessing her kiss with the affair partner, I was in a daze and could barely sleep. I continued my security guard job in a hazy state at night. By that time, it was common for my ex-wife to come home in the morning, not just 2 or 3 a.m. Even though the store closed at 8 p.m. The day before my daughter's school field trip, my ex-wife didn't prepare anything for her and said, "You're already in 3rd grade. So you can do it yourself, right?" Before going out. When I saw my daughter's lonely face saying, "Mommy's busy," I finally decided on divorce. Nowadays I understand the common practices for infidelity cases from this thread, but at the time, as a loser, my top priority wasn't alimony or punishment. It was custody. I knew it was difficult for a father to get custody, so I kept thinking about how I could do it. First, I hired a private investigator, thinking that I needed to gather evidence to make it clear who was at fault for the divorce. The private investigator was insanely expensive, but they informed me it was pay after completion when I closed a time deposit for the payment, which took me by surprise. They apologized, saying, "I forgot to tell you it's pay after completion," but added, "In exchange, we'll put extra effort into the investigation." And they actually did investigate very thoroughly. They asked me, "Can you bring your wife's email logs and call history from her cell phone?" But it was hard to do because my ex-wife always took her phone when she took a shower. I did have the call history statements since her payments were combined with mine. But when she slept, she hid her phone somewhere and I didn't know where. However, when I consulted the private investigator, they easily solved it. "Why don't you just call her phone once when she's asleep to make it ring?" Yep, it was in the kitchen cupboard. I couldn't believe it was found so easily. As expected of a private investigator. I mean, hiding your cell phone in a kitchen cupboard when you sleep. After brazenly kissing the affair partner near our home, I don't know if she was an idiot or overly cautious. How many years ago was this story? Sorry, please bear with me. It was an era when people were saying some iPhone thing was going to come out soon. Of course the phone was locked. I tried entering some numbers I thought might be the passcode. My birth date, my ex-wife's one, and my daughter's one. None of them worked. Here goes nothing. I tried the phone number of my ex-wife's parents' home and unexpectedly the last 4 digits were correct. The first thing I checked was her email. Every single one was a ridiculous, embarrassing email. Next I looked at the photos, and while there weren't any nude shots you often hear about, there were plenty of couple shots. There was no doubt the affair had been going on for at least about 6 months. For the time being, I let my ex-wife swim free for a month. 1 month later. The report from the private investigator was aplenty. The photos were crisp A4 size prints. Kissing in the car, driving into a hotel, and getting out of the car. What month, day, time, and minute they entered and exited. Moreover, it seemed like they were trying to conquer all the motels in that area like a stamp rally. And the affair partner was married too. On top of that, he had a daughter around the same age as ours. He was a rather talented businessman and he started his business early on, and now he has 2 stores. He had bought a house with a loan in the suburbs at a young age. And the most shocking thing was that the jerk had even rented an apartment near his store as a secret meetup room with my ex-wife. When the private investigator laughed and said, they were totally sloppy. Not cautious at all, so it was easy. This will be a breeze for the lawyer. It hit me. Come to think of it, I hadn't even considered a lawyer. When I thought of lawyers, I had the image of going straight to court, so I was just thinking of gathering evidence and confronting her myself. Embarrassingly, I asked the investigator if a lawyer was necessary. And he said, of course for a trial. But it's standard for them to accompany you for the negotiations too. Shall I introduce one? I was an idiot. Already embarrassed, I asked for the lawyer introduction too. I didn't have any connections like that among my acquaintances or friends. The investigator said, no problem, it's a common thing. By the way, the lawyer's fee is also pay after completion. If you can prepare about $500 as a retainer, that should be fine. Those people file lawsuits like changing their address, so it'll be lightning fast. I had the money from closing my time deposit, so I could pay the retainer in cash immediately. The lawyer I was introduced to was a woman. At first I was a bit anxious that she might side with my wife and go easy on the punishment, but I later learned this was an unnecessary worry. When the lawyer said we should decide the points of contention, I told her my only wish was custody. But she said we also need to decide asset division, alimony, etc. I was starting to feel pathetic about my own ignorance. Regarding custody, she said it might be difficult in various ways. And asked about my ex-wife's respective child-rearing environments after divorce. I have my parents living at my family home, and my sister's family lives nearby. My ex-wife's parents are divorced, so she doesn't really have a family home. But if anything, her mother's apartment would be considered her family home. When the lawyer heard that, she started saying perfect. We can do this. That phrase is such a reassuring thing to hear. First, go to City Hall and consult about the child-rearing allowance for single-parent households. Do this a couple times to create a precedent of consultation. Next, summarize the negative aspects of the child's upbringing if taken in by the mother. The child, having just lost their father, would be exposed to the mother's lovers coming and going. And when the mother is working during the day, the grandmother is also working. So the child would be alone. Moreover, the mother has committed infidelity, so the impact on the child if taken in by the mother is obvious. Those are the 3 points. Next, the positive aspects if I take custody. My child-rearing environment includes grandparents from my daughter's perspective, an aunt and uncle living very close by, and cousins too. It's clear that the father's side is the better child-rearing environment for the child's sake. With this line of argument and all the evidence gathered, we'll be fine even if it goes to trial. Now then, shall we discuss how much alimony to go for? That was the vibe. It's pathetic, but I started bawling right there on the spot. I suddenly remembered my daughter's face as she prepared for the field trip with me, saying, "Mommy's busy, The lawyer comforted me, saying, don't cry, don't cry." If I had to point out one negative aspect about my child-rearing environment, it would be that I was still unemployed at the time. But the lawyer said, we can overcome that. Your family home has your daughter's grandpa, grandma, uncle, aunt, and even cousins. As a family unit, it's the most ideal situation. However, one worrisome point is that the custody for mother is still deeply rooted in the courts. So if the trial itself drags on, it might be a bit concerning. But with this much evidence gathered, we'll make something so incredible they'll instantly lose the will to fight. The lawyer gave me these reassuring words. Plus, the evidence filling the envelope from the private investigator seemed extremely powerful. And the lawyer began creating the statement of facts with great enthusiasm. Is it all right if I leave everything to you? Yes, for now. If your family home is nearby, please prepare to have your child evacuate there for a while. Ideally without your wife realizing our moves. Well, even if she realizes, it'll be fine. The plan was to send the content certified letter in 2 days. But the day after I spoke with the lawyer, the letter arrived at my house. Ha! What's going on? I thought as I watched my ex-wife's reaction when she went to receive it. It was my first time sending a content certified letter, and also my first time receiving one. The mail carrier told my ex-wife at the door, "It's a content certified letter from the man's wife," and she panicked. Even I understood everything at that point. I hadn't considered the man's wife would also make a move at the same time, so I felt a bit uneasy about them beating us to the punch. Hey, hurry up and sign it. The mail carrier is waiting. No. I refuse to accept it. Oh, you refuse? For the first time, I raised my voice. Even with the mail carrier at the door. I know everything. Just sign it already. My ex-wife was scared to death. But that was in response to the content certified letter from the man's wife. Conversely, she brazenly was defiant. I was planning to divorce you anyway, so I don't care. I'm not even going to remarry that man. Anyway, I'm divorcing you, so stop bitching. Her completely unrepentant attitude, not making a single excuse, was almost refreshing. However, what stung was when she said, "Having sex with you was painful." Actually, my ex-wife was my first girlfriend. The fact is that my ex-wife, my first girlfriend at 25, was exceptionally beautiful. I was stupid and pushed through with marriage. So there were many parts where I did as my ex-wife said in our married life. Even with sex, she refused blowjobs, banned cunnilingus, and only allowed the missionary and cowgirl positions. If we both hadn't bathed, she adamantly refused. So my ex-wife's go-to method as rejecting me was to go to sleep without bathing and then shower the next morning. Even so, I thought I was satisfied marrying such a beautiful woman. Oh, and my ex-wife also stupidly thought, woman equals unconditionally receives alimony. When she started saying she wants cash sooner, I had to laugh. So that's why she can be so brazen. Being brazen is incredible, I thought. Explaining was too much of a pain, so I left her misunderstanding about the alimony. Even when I grabbed the content certified letter. Give it back. No. Give it back. No. Fine then, she said, quickly giving up after a short back and forth. She nonchalantly went to work at the store where the affair partner was. As if nothing had happened. After my ex-wife left for work, I immediately called my lawyer. I told them a content certified letter had come from the man's wife, and that I had the actual document. Keeping the actual document is bad, so please make a copy and return the original. Does the other side, the man's wife, sending it first put us at any disadvantage? No, not at all. It's like them saying, leave some of the alimony for us to take, that kind of feeling. That day, I went to deliver a copy of the content certified letter to my lawyer. When I got home, various things in the house were missing, like a burglar had broken in. Mainly the white goods and TV were gone. My ex-wife and her lover took them out. Probably not just the man. They might use the high school part-time workers too. I wonder what they plan to do if they ran into me. Inside the store, the two of them were publicly recognized, and I was completely looked down upon, even by the other employees. On top of my computer, there was a note from my ex-wife about divorcing. When I called my lawyer, they were quite flustered, saying, "You haven't done the divorce paperwork yet, right? You can't do that." From this day, I'm having my child go to my parents' home. From that day, my ex-wife didn't come home. Sometime after that, I got a call from my lawyer saying the man's wife wants to meet. It was the four of us, me, my lawyer, the man's wife, and the man's wife's lawyer at my lawyer's office. My first impression of the man's wife was that she had a delinquent-like appearance rivaling the man's. I was even scared she might fly into a rage and grab me. I never imagined that she would later become my current wife. The man's wife seemed to take her child and go back to her family home after sending the content-certified letter to my ex-wife. In contrast to her intimidating appearance, she spoke very calmly and matter-of-factly when she opened her mouth. I was surprised when she politely apologized, saying, "I'm so sorry for what my husband has done this time." First, her wishes were divorce from the man, seeking alimony from my ex-wife and the man, securing custody and seeking child support. My wishes were divorce from my ex-wife, securing custody and seeking child support, seeking alimony from the man, seeking alimony from my ex-wife and limiting visitation rights. There was also the matter of asset division, but I'll omit that. In the first place, I was unemployed, so I had no assets to divide. The items with apostrophes are the ones I ended up dropping later. My lawyer had said, limiting the mother's visitation rights is probably impossible. Regarding child support, now that I think about it, I was too sloppy. But honestly, I just wanted it to end as soon as possible, so I gave that up. My ex-wife's brazenness as the content certified arrived kept flashing back in my mind, and I just wanted it to be over. I was clearly the one cornering them, but I was the one taking a barrage of emotional damage. While this was happening, my ex-wife was shamelessly flirting with her affair partner at the store, acting like a married couple. I know I'm not in a position to say this, but are you okay mentally? Let's fight this through to the end. For some reason, I started tearing up again, remembering my daughter preparing for her field trip. I feel so bad for my daughter. Yeah, you're such a kind dad. Let's do our best. I remember that my affair partner's wife, dressed like a hostess before going to work, patting me on the waist. Reading up to this point, it seems like you have the evidence to secure a complete victory. But it looks like you're struggling with your cheating ex-wife. Is the cheating ex-wife the final boss? Soon after, a content-certified letter from me with nearly the same content arrived at the affair partner's store. Then the affair partner also hired a lawyer. A discussion was held between the lawyers without all concerned in it. And the affair partner's lawyer basically surrendered without a fight. The unemployed husband's domestic violence towards his ex-wife was severe, and I only lent the apartment as a shelter. There was no physical relationship, and this claim is unjust, was the affair partner's side of the story. I showed a portion of the private investigator's report that was shared between my side and the affair partner's wife's side, as well as photos of the appliances that had disappeared from the apartment. And the lawyer said, "I will consult with my client," without changing his expression. I thought lawyers were impressive in this regard. At this point, it was discovered that my ex-wife was living in the secret meeting apartment. And then, a discussion was held with the combinations of myself and ex-wife, affair partner and his wife, and each of our lawyers. This is where the misunderstanding was finally cleared up. "Well, I need cash urgently, so can't you just give me the consolation money quickly? For now, $30,000. When my ex-wife brought this up, I thought, finally, it's come to this. The affair partner's wife also looked at my cheating ex-wife with a stunned expression. And the other three lawyers were looking at me with a pitying look. "You guys have to pay the consolation money. Why do you think you can cheat and still get money? What? What are you talking about? When divorcing, it's normal for the woman to receive consolation money. I mean, I can't make a living without receiving consolation money, and it's only natural for you to pay as the man. In fact, even the affair partner's wife is trying to get consolation money, right? I will be properly receiving consolation money from you as well. Did you not read the content certified letter?" I didn't read that. I mean, why from me? Well, you should read it. This cheating ex-wife is also the legendary misunderstanding woman on internet forums. Good grief. It's because of you that we're getting divorced, you know? This is consolation money for that emotional distress. You guys had an affair and that's why we're getting divorced. So you're the ones at fault. At divorcing, the person who is at fault pays it regardless of gender. That doesn't make any sense. I'm the woman who will have trouble making a living if we divorce, so I should receive it. I don't care if you have trouble making a living or not. You guys had an affair. When you do something wrong, you should atone for it, right? Even a child understands that. I'm saying I'll divorce you, so isn't that enough atonement? I'll have to live on my own from now on. Let the affair partner, who even rented a secret meeting apartment for you, take care of you. Well, anyway, I'm going to claim consolation money. Also, I intend to receive child support for our daughter, so keep that in mind too. If you don't comply, we'll just go to court. We have evidence on our side, so going to court is totally fine with me. But you guys will be in trouble, right? Fine, let's go to court. Then we'll see who's in the right. You have the responsibility to pay the consolation money. The room fell silent at the calm words of my lawyer when I was about to give up persuading my ex-wife because I was so tired by her inability to understand my words that she was upset. After that, my lawyer carefully explained to my ex-wife about the consolation money. At first, my cheating ex-wife was snapping at my lawyer as well, but as she received a matter-of-fact explanation from my lawyer, who was also a woman, the cheating ex-wife's face visibly turned pale. It seemed my ex-wife finally understood the situation a little. I thanked my lawyer and began to continue the discussion with my ex-wife, who was completely dejected. My ex-wife's demand was a stubborn insistence on, I don't have money to pay consolation, but give me custody. But when I asked, do you even know where our daughter is right now? She said no more. I asked something I had been curious about the whole time. My ex-wife, who had been living in the secret meeting apartment with her affair partner and hadn't seen our daughter since then. I thought she would first ask about our daughter, but she didn't mention her own child at all until the topic of custody came up. In other words, she has no interest in our daughter. She must be asserting custody rights out of spite, not wanting to give me anything. Perhaps sensing that intent, my cheating ex-wife made a guilt-ridden face. If I handed custody over to this woman, she would definitely misuse the child support money for our daughter. Looking at my cheating ex-wife, I thought about what to do going forward to make sure I got custody no matter what. But that worry was quickly disappeared. Even if you say you can't pay the consolation money, it is easy to get the court order to garnish wages or something. If I give up custody, I don't have to pay consolation money? She gave up custody surprisingly easily in exchange for consolation money. I couldn't believe my ears. I barely managed to say, I don't know about the claims from the affair partner's wife, but that's fine with me. I hardly had any savings, and I don't want the home appliances back now. Finally, the only thing I got from my ex-wife was custody. I also brought up the topic of child support, but she demanded I waive child support in exchange for giving up custody. So I agreed to that demand, thinking it would reduce the frequency of this cheating ex-wife's involvement with our daughter. I was supposed to completely cut off her lifeline, but it turned into a mess. My lawyer seemed dissatisfied, but switched to the strategy of getting money from the affair partner. The discussions with the affair partner and his wife were also settled. And finally, the shared understanding was reached with all concerned in it and their lawyers. Each lawyer summarized the content in a written document and made it into a notarized document, giving it legal binding power for each individual. My ex-wife, who kept saying I can't pay, I don't have money, was made to sign and seal a document that included a clause stating she recognized her respective obligations to pay consolation money and child support, and that in the case of a bank transfer, the statement would serve as proof, and in the case of a handoff, my receipt would serve as proof. I probably won't receive the money, but according to my lawyer, this will be effective in various ways down the line. As for the affair partner's wife, she said she would demand the consolation money even if it meant going to court. By the way, the affair partner's lawyer was completely irrelevant. The affair partner seemed to have completely surrendered, including consolation money to me, but even so, he apparently absolutely didn't want to apologize to me, so he provocatively said, I heard your ex-wife was never satisfied with you. Not even caring that his wife was there. His wife said without missing a beat, and have you ever satisfied me? Ha! You ape! The other man's wife said in an incredibly calm but threatening voice. Even now, remembering the affair partner's pathetic face at that moment gives me a little feeling of catharsis. By the way, after some twists and turns, I remarried this affair partner's wife. After remarrying, the only other time I heard her use the threatening voice was when I got stranded in the car during a heavy snowfall. My phone battery died, and I didn't make it home until the next morning. She said to me, "Do you have any idea how worried I was?" Ha! Anyway, everything, including the aftermath, was settled by the end of summer. I want to hear about the process of remarrying that delinquent appearance wife. And also the current state of the cheating ex-wife and affair partner. You could think of your life with your rotten ex-wife as a stepping stone to meeting your current wife. Well then, here's what happened after that. The affair partner apparently became concerned about the neighbor's eyes after the incident where his wife raided the store. So he left the store in someone else's hands and stopped showing up himself. I don't know the details of whether it was because of the consolation money. But my ex-wife and the affair partner apparently had a big fight after that, and my ex-wife, with her usual brazenness and unrepentance, couldn't back down and left the secret meeting apartment. It's still a mystery how he managed to come up with the consolation money he paid to the affair partner's wife, even if it was in installments. Even though I got custody, visitation rights still exist, so I thought it would be annoying if she wanted to see our child. I never heard from her at all, even though I haven't changed my phone number or email address. However, right after the divorce, my former mother-in-law contacted my parents' home and said she wanted to have her granddaughter stay over one last time. And they were pushed into agreeing. My ex-wife wasn't at her parents' house, but my former mother-in-law apparently thoroughly planted bad word about me in my daughter's head. According to my former mother-in-law, your dad was slacking off and not working, taking advantage of your mom working hard. My daughter told me this several years later. She had apparently been keeping it in her heart the whole time. There were other petty harassments, like my former mother-in-law and ex-wife showing up uninvited to my daughter's sports day. Around the time the divorce was settled and my life had calmed down, I finally found a job. Around November, I got a call from the affair partner's wife. "How have you been doing since then?" "Yes, I'm doing well, thanks to you." "And work?" "Yes, I was able to find a job without issue, thanks to you." "That's great to hear." After some superficial conversation like that. Actually, my daughter has quite a bit of clothes she doesn't wear. If you're having trouble choosing clothes for your daughter, since she's close in age to my child, I'd be happy to give you some of her clothes if you'd like. To be honest, it was a well-timed offer. My daughter was starting to develop her own preferences in clothes, but the clothes my mother chose always ended up being to her tastes. So we agreed to meet. I don't remember what the affair partner's wife was wearing when she showed up at the family restaurant we agreed to meet at. But she gave off more of a hostess vibe than a cabaret club girl. It was flashy, but in a somewhat subdued way. Somehow, I feel like we both avoided the topic of our former partners. She was surprised at how thin I had gotten and was very worried. It's true that work was quite hard and I wasn't eating much. But I thought I was just the right weight after having gained quite a bit during my unemployment. Unlike that time, even if it wasn't directed at me, the wolf-like bloodthirst and intimidating aura were nowhere to be seen. And the affair partner's wife was gentle and smiling this time. Even if she dressed like that of the nightlife. The large paper bag she handed me contained several sweaters, cardigans, and coats. I gave her a paper bag full of consumable products, being sold at my new workplace but overstocked, as a thank you gift. And she exclaimed happily, "Yay!" When the affair partner's wife said, "Can we make time like this again?" I said something like, "To be honest, it's been a while since I've had a proper conversation with a woman, so please let me rehabilitate," and she laughed. When the affair partner's wife laughs, her eyes disappear. After returning home, I took a good look at the contents of the bag, and they were all brand new. The tags and price tags were cut off, but the clothes smelled like they were from a store shelf. I knew it would be tactless to say something like, "These are new, right?" So I exaggerated a bit about how overjoyed my daughter was in a thank you email to the affair partner's wife. After that, the affair partner's wife called me out several times before the end of the year to give me these so-called hand-me-downs, and each time she gave me clothes that were clearly brand new. I would give her various things I bought with my employee discount at my own store in exchange, but at the family restaurant where we always met, we tried our best to avoid the topic of our former partners. By the way, she gave me a cake for Christmas. During the Christmas holiday, I was working every day except Christmas Day. So on Christmas I went to church with my child and then worked the rest of the time. I thought it was around the time when the Christmas holiday mood had worn off, but the affair partner's wife contacted me. When I met the affair partner's wife at the usual family restaurant in the early afternoon, the first thing she said was, "Are you free all day today?" When I answered, "Yes, I finally have a late Christmas holiday," she suddenly ordered a beer and downed it in one gulp. "Ah, I accidentally drank beer even though I came by car." "Why'd you do that?" "Please drive me home today." "Okay." I knew at this time that the affair partner's wife was a weaker drinker, even though she drank a whole medium-sized mug. She was clearly drunk, so I thought I'd drive her home early and left the restaurant. If I remember correctly, her parents' house is one stop away from my hometown on a certain private railway. As I was driving and thinking about that, the affair partner's wife, still in a drunken tone, spoke to me from the passenger seat. "My daughter is out with my parents until tonight." "I see. So even if you kidnap me, no one will notice." "Ah, okay. Everyone's coming back around 8 o'clock, so until then, even if you kidnap me, no one will notice." She is sending all the signs. I finally realized and drove straight to a hotel at the highway interchange. We had intense sex until almost evening. The affair partner's wife was gentle. But I couldn't shake the suspicion that it might have just been the liquor talking, so I had trouble sending an email after returning home. After much deliberation, I sent a bland email saying something like "Thank you for today." I got a reply immediately. It was a response that completely saw through me, saying, "You think I did it because I was drunk, don't you?" After that, I started dating the affair partner's wife, but we set rules for each other. Our children come first. Keep it a secret from our children and families. Curfew is 7 p.m. no matter what happened. Split expenses 50/50ths. We followed those rules while dating, and a year later, the affair partner's wife moved near my house. We introduced each other to our children as friends and tried to act as natural as possible by not being lovey-dovey in front of the kids. A year after that, we remarried and the affair partner's wife became my current wife. At first, we had the utmost care for our children's feelings. So to be honest, it wasn't a very stable household. But I feel like things have finally settled down in recent years. Do the stepchildren get along well with each other? My wife's stepchild is the oldest, but I think the two of them get along well. It pains my heart to see how much effort my older daughter is putting into many things. My younger daughter, who is my biological child, handles things quite skillfully. Have you had any contact at all from your ex-wife after the divorce? To be precise, she had contacted me twice. The first was at my daughter's sports festival. The second was when she wanted to give a graduation gift and demanded to see her. The nuance wasn't really a request to, "Let me see her." Do you and your current wife have any children together? Regarding this, my current wife and I have decided not to have children. We felt that if we had our own child, it might disrupt the emotional balance of our current children. And we decided to love the two we have now. Your ex-wife and affair partner haven't found out, have they? The affair partner knows. I mean, when my current wife sent a photo of the two of us to the affair partner in response to his email asking to get back together, the affair partner apparently went ballistic. I think my ex-wife probably knows too. Do any relatives know? The relatives know. But we both understand it's not a history that's actively welcomed, so we've both become estranged from our relatives. Do your daughters know about the connection between your ex-wife and the affair partner? That's top secret. It's also one of the reasons we keep our distance from each other's relatives. The affair partner requested to get back together, then went ballistic. That's a good story. Your ex-wife is being rejected a reunion by the daughter she birthed, so I think you ultimately dealt her a critical hit. The one who might have dealt the critical hit to my ex-wife is my current wife. In terms of consolation money too. By the way, the affair partner's store is still thriving, but it has a bad reputation among the surrounding shopping district and local residents. It's become common knowledge that the owner there puts his hands on the store's employees. This is because my current wife stormed into the store and caused a huge scene at the time. And because my ex-wife's so-called mom friends spread the word. So I thought that the first-time customers and people living alone kept the store thriving. I was also forced to move, but I think I got my revenge. I really don't know about my ex-wife. Seems she's living somewhere around Montana. Well then, thank you for sticking with me for so long. Good work. Be happy with your current wife and daughters. This has been the story of a man who found happiness at the end. By the way, it's formally possible to refuse receipt of a content-certified letter. However, in many cases, the declaration of intention to refuse receipt is recognized. And it is considered that the sender's declaration of intention has reached, even if the contents haven't confirmed.